The bell above the door chimed as he shuffled in, his weathered frame draped in a faded grey sweatshirt that had seen better decades. The pristine elite box academy fell silent for a moment as curious eyes turned toward the elderly man, his face mapped with wrinkles, boxing gloves dangling from gnarled fingers. "Excuse me," he mumbled to the receptionist, his voice barely audible over the rhythmic thudding of punching bags. "I'd like to sign up for some beginner lessons." The young woman behind the counter exchanged glances with a nearby trainer, a sculpted specimen in his late 20s with a sharp undercut and a smirk that appeared before his words did. "Sir," the young trainer interjected, stepping forward. With exaggerated patience, "I think you've misunderstood what we offer here." His voice rose intentionally, drawing attention from nearby members. "This isn't senior chair aerobics. We train serious athletes and competitors." The old man's eyes flickered briefly, not with hurt but with something deeper, before returning to their gentle gaze. "I understand. I just thought, let me show you what we do here." The trainer cut him off, guiding him toward the main floor with a hand on his shoulder that wasn't quite respectful. The gym patrons began gathering, sensing entertainment brewing. The elderly man stood awkwardly in the center as the trainer, whose chest bore the name Tyler on his premium athletic shirt, began demonstrating combinations on a nearby bag with theatrical power. "This is a place for power, speed, and precision," Tyler announced to his growing audience, throwing lightning combinations. "Not a place to—" He glanced at the old man's trembling hands. "Work through arthritis." Laughter rippled through the gym. The old man's eyes dropped to the floor as his fingers tightened almost imperceptibly around the worn leather gloves. "Come back tomorrow," Tyler said with a theatrical wink to his audience, "and watch what real boxing looks like when I spar with the state champion. Maybe we can find you a nice shuffleboard court instead." As the old man turned to leave, something in his deliberate gait suggested this wasn't quite over, and by tomorrow everything in that gym would change forever. William Bill Morrison lived alone in a modest apartment on the edge of town. The walls were sparse except for one small photograph, faded with age, showing a younger version of himself standing proudly beside a teenage boy holding a boxing trophy. Each morning followed the same ritual. Coffee brewed in a pot older than most cars on the road. A walk through the neighborhood with careful, measured steps, and a few moments spent watching neighborhood children play from his favorite park bench. To anyone passing by, he was just another elderly man living out quiet days in the twilight of life. What they couldn't see was how Daniel Thomas Morrison practiced his combinations in perfect form each night before bed, his muscles remembering. What his joints protested, how he wrapped his hands with the precision of someone who had done it thousands of times, how he sometimes spoke aloud to the photograph as if continuing a conversation paused decades ago. "I think I'm finally ready, Mikey," he whispered to the photo that morning. "Your old man's been hiding long enough." Few people in town knew that Bill had once been the heart and soul of New Hope Boxing Foundation, a program he'd built from nothing, in a warehouse with leaky pipes and second-hand equipment. For 27 years, he'd transformed troubled teenagers into disciplined young adults, teaching them that the most important battles were fought outside the ring, battles against poverty, discrimination, and the low expectations society had set for them. Marco Ramirez had been one such kid, 14 years old and already on probation, when Bill found him fighting behind a convenience store. 10 years later, Marco had earned a scholarship and became a pediatrician, serving the same neighborhood where he once couldn't envision a future. And Marco was just one of hundreds. "Boxing isn't about hurting people," Bill would tell each new student. "It's about understanding yourself well enough that you don't need to." What the patrons of Elite Box Academy couldn't have known was that before tragedy struck, Bill Morrison had trained 3 national champions and 1 Olympic silver medalist. Before grief had bent his shoulders and aged his face beyond his years, promoters would call him the sculptor for his ability to transform raw talent into masterful technique. Then came the accident that took his son, and the heart went out of everything. Bill disappeared from the boxing world entirely, moving to a new town where nobody knew his name or his accomplishments. The great trainer became just another old man, invisible to a world that valued youth and physical prowess above all else. He placed his worn gloves on the small table beside the photograph. He smiled faintly. "Just one more lesson to teach, son. Just one more." The stares burned into Bill's back as he entered the gym the following day. Whispers followed him like shadows as he made his way to the benches surrounding the central ring where several gym members were already gathering. "Look who decided to come watch," Tyler called out, already inside the ring, shirtless and gleaming under the lights. His perfectly defined muscles seemed designed for display rather than function. Front row seats for our elder statesman. The scheduled sparring partner, a college athlete with promising skills, was warming up nearby, looking uncomfortable with Tyler's antics, but unwilling to object. The gym owner, a former boxer himself named Marcus, frowned slightly from the corner but said nothing. Business was business, and Tyler brought in the wealthy clients. Bill sat quietly, his eyes tracking every movement in the ring with an intensity that seemed at odds with his fragile appearance. He didn't react to the occasional comments directed his way, didn't flinch when Tyler mimicked an elderly boxer to more laughter. The sparring match began with typical showy technique. Tyler was skilled, no doubt, but performed for the audience more than focusing on his opponent. The college athlete was good, but telegraphed his movements in ways that made Bill's fingers twitch slightly, as if making corrections in his mind. After the 3-round exhibition, Tyler played to the crowd with raised arms. His eyes found Bill's. "What did you think, old-timer? Do you still want to learn from the best?" More laughter. Bill cleared his throat softly. "You drop your right when you throw your hook." The gym fell unusually quiet. Tyler's smile tightened. "Excuse me? Your right hand. It drops before you throw your left hook. A decent counterpuncher would catch you every time." Bill's voice was gentle, almost apologetic. Tyler's face flushed as scattered chuckles broke out from a different source this time. Well, we've got an expert here." He leaned against the ropes. "Why don't you come show me then?" It was meant as a joke, a final humiliation to put the old man in his place. But something shifted in the atmosphere when Bill slowly stood. "I wouldn't want to waste your time," Bill responded quietly. No, I insist." Tyler was committed now, pride on the line. "Marcus, get the old guy some gear. Let's give him one. A round of education." Marcus hesitated, studying Bill with newfound curiosity. "Sir, you don't have to—" "It's all right," Bill said, already removing his faded sweatshirt to reveal a plain white t-shirt beneath. "I brought my own gloves." A current of uncertainty rippled through the crowd as Bill carefully wrapped his hands with the efficiency of someone who had done it countless times. His movements were economical, precise. The trembling in his hands that had been so noticeable yesterday was strangely absent. As Bill climbed slowly through the ropes, Tyler circled like a predator, playing to the crowd. "Don't worry, folks. I'll be gentle with our senior citizen. Maybe just a light cardio workout for his heart." The room filled with uncomfortable laughter as Marcus reluctantly brought them together for instructions, looking increasingly concerned. "Just movement and light contact," Marcus insisted, looking at Tyler with clear warning in his eyes. Bill stood with shoulders slightly hunched, hands raised in what appeared to be a novice's approximation of a guard. Tyler tapped gloves with exaggerated gentleness, throwing a wink to a group of admirers at ringside. The bell rang. Tyler bounced forward, firing a series of light, showy jabs that deliberately missed, making Bill look awkward as he seemed to struggle to maintain balance. The audience's laughter grew as Tyler continued the exhibition, occasionally looking out at his fans. "See how I'm controlling distance?" Tyler announced to the crowd. "Fundamentals are—" The shift was so subtle that most missed it entirely. One moment Bill appeared unsteady, almost frail. The next, his posture transformed. His feet planted, firmly, shoulders squared, chin tucked. The change was like watching a different person emerge, Tyler. Midway through another showy combination, threw the left hook, and as Bill had noted, the right hand dropped. The counter right that Bill threw wasn't delivered with youthful power. It didn't need to be. It traveled precisely 4 inches, making contact just as Tyler's weight shifted forward, multiplying its impact tenfold. The precision was surgical. The timing was perfect. Tyler's eyes went blank before he hit the canvas. For 3 heartbeats, absolute silence filled the gym. Then chaos. Erupted. Someone call an ambulance. Who is this guy? Bill immediately knelt beside the fallen trainer, checking his pulse with the practiced calm of someone who had seen knockouts before. He'll be fine, he assured Marcus. Just caught him on the button. Get some ice. As the commotion continued, a gray-haired man in his 60s pushed through the crowd, staring at Bill with widening eyes. Morrison, he whispered. Daniel Morrison. Bill's gaze lifted slowly, recognition dawning. Eddie Sandoval. Been a long time. Eddie turned to the confused crowd. Do you people have any idea who this is? This is Stone Hands Morrison. His voice was reverent. He trained champions when most of you weren't even born. His fighters held 3 different title belts at once back in '87. The gym fell silent. Again, as all eyes turned to Bill, who simply sighed and continued tending to Tyler, who was now blinking back to consciousness. I never wanted this, Bill said quietly to the young trainer. I just wanted to get back in the gym. If I had known, Marcus stammered, looking both apologetic and awestruck. I've read about your methods in boxing journals. Your fighters had the best technique in the business. Tyler sat up slowly, disoriented but clear-headed enough to feel the weight of what had happened. His perfect image shattered with a single punch from a man he'd ridiculed, his credibility gone in an instant. A young woman stepped forward from the crowd. My father was Carlos Diaz, she said, emotion catching in her voice. He always said you saved his life when you took him off the streets. He has your picture in his gym in Chicago. One by one, others came forward with similar stories, children or siblings of fighters Bill had trained, boxing enthusiasts who remembered his contributions to the sport. Bill accepted their words with humble nods, uncomfortable with the attention. That was another lifetime, he said. But something in his bearing had changed, as if a weight had lifted after being carried for too many years. When the crowd finally dispersed, only Bill, Marcus, and a subdued Tyler remained by the ring. Why did you come back after yesterday? Marcus asked. Bill glanced at Tyler, who couldn't meet his eyes. I thought maybe it was time to stop being invisible. The Elite Box Academy looked different a month later. The sign remained the same, but inside subtle changes were evident to regular members. Near the entrance, a new photograph had been added to the wall of champions. A younger Bill Morrison surrounded by fighters whose names were boxing legend. Beside it hung a framed philosophy. The strongest fighters are built from the inside out. In the back corner, Bill worked quietly with a group of new members, mostly older adults who had never found the courage to enter such an intimidating space before. His instruction was patient, technically flawless, and delivered with the wisdom that only decades of experience could provide. Across the gym, Tyler worked with his usual clients, but with a noticeable difference. The theatrical showmanship had given way to more careful attention. Occasionally he glanced toward Bill's corner, observing his teaching methods with newfound respect. During the 3rd week, Tyler had approached Bill's section cautiously. The cross counter you showed Mrs. Henderson, he said, referring to a 70-year-old grandmother who had joined Bill's group. I've never seen that subtle weight shift before. Bill had studied Tyler for a moment before answering. There's always more to learn. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was an opening. By the 4th week, they had established an uneasy alliance, with Tyler occasionally assisting Bill's growing class. The younger trainer was visibly humbled, but there was relief in his demeanor, too, as if freed from the exhausting performance of perfection. On this particular morning, Marcus gathered everyone before classes began. Today marks 1 month since Coach Morrison honored us by joining our staff, he announced. And I'm proud to say our new senior boxing program already has 27 members. Applause filled the gym as Bill nodded acknowledgement, uncomfortable, with recognition but standing straighter than he had in years. I also want to announce that beginning next month, we'll be launching a community outreach program for at-risk youth, with free memberships for those who can't afford them. Marcus continued. Coach Morrison will be heading this initiative, with Coach Tyler assisting. Tyler stepped forward, a different man than he'd been a month before. Working with Coach Morrison has been... He searched for words. Well, it's been the most humbling experience of my career, and exactly what I needed. Bill simply nodded, but the corners of his eyes crinkled with something that might have been satisfaction. Later, as the gym emptied for lunch, Tyler found Bill alone by the speed bags. "Can I ask you something?" Tyler's voice had lost its artificial confidence. "That day, you could have really hurt me. Why didn't you?" Bill adjusted the height of a bag before answering. "Hurting you wouldn't have taught you anything. But after how I treated you—" "This was never about you," Bill interrupted. Gently. "Or me. It's about what we pass on. I spent too many years hiding what I could give to others because of my own pain." He demonstrated a rhythm on the speed bag, his weathered hands moving with fluid grace. "Don't make the same mistake. Tyler." Absorbed this, then asked, "Do you think I could ever be half the coach you are?" Bill studied the younger man carefully. "That depends. Are you willing to understand that your most important muscles," he tapped Tyler's temple, "are in here?" Then he placed a hand over his own heart. "And here?" Tyler nodded slowly, understanding dawning in his eyes. "Then yes," Bill said. "But first, you need to fix that right hand that keeps dropping. We've all done it. Seen someone and instantly filed them away in a box labeled with our assumptions. The elderly man who moves too slowly in the grocery line. The cleaning woman who must not speak our language. The person whose appearance doesn't match our definition of success. But beneath the surface of each person lies a universe of experience, knowledge and value that we blind ourselves to when we judge too quickly." Bill Morrison could have lived the rest of his days in the shadows of his former greatness, invisible to a world that had forgotten him. Instead, he found the courage to step back into the light, not to reclaim glory, but to share what only he could give. And Tyler had to lose everything, his pride, his reputation, his certainty, before he could see the treasure that had walked through his door disguised as an old man with trembling hands. The true strength in this story isn't found in a perfect right counter or youthful muscles. It's found in the resilience to begin again at 78. The humility to learn from someone you once dismissed. The wisdom to understand that our greatest contributions often come after our greatest failures. What stories are walking past us every day, cloaked in ordinary appearances? What masters are sitting quietly beside us while we chatter about our own importance? What lessons might we learn if we looked beyond the surface? Perhaps the most powerful people in any room are those we never noticed at all. If you found meaning in today's story, take a moment to share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to join our community of storytellers and seekers who believe that the most important things in life aren't things at all. They're the connections we make when we truly see each other.